everyone, this is a recap slash discussion of the new show Revolution, which premieres on the 15th or 16th or 17th of September, being written and created by Eric Kripke, who wrote Supernatural, and J.J. Abrams of Star Trek and Lost. I have like 6 pages of notes. I'm probably not going to say everything because it's basically me ranting and my notes are weird. I'm going to write my notes up onto a written blog post and I will leave a link to that below if it's up already. If not, then I'll edit this and leave a link when it's up. So what this is about, if you don't already know, basically the Earth lost all of its power, electricity, cars stopped working, all that kind of stuff, and it kind of went back to the olden days, I guess, where people had to grow their own food, live in little settlements. It starts off with in the opening scene with all the electricity dying, and then it goes on, skips 15 years into the future where characters featured in the beginning are kind of grown up and older. A government type thing is already set up. I really liked that it skipped 15 years into the future because there have already been TV shows where it starts off with the apocalypse basically and characters having to struggle through that and adapt, but these characters are mostly already adapted to their life because it's been nearly 2 decades. I will try not to make any comparisons to Supernatural and Lost, but it might be difficult. So we meet the main characters. There is Charlie, who is the bratty daughter from the beginning, and she's still a brat. I still do not like her. Danny, who is her brother. Ben was not a main character, he is their father who died. Maggie, I think, she's a British woman, she's blonde, she's a witch doctor type person. And then there's also a guy called Aaron, who seems kind of nerdy, and he used to work for Google. Danny, the asthmatic son, gets kidnapped by, I don't even know what to call them, I guess they're militia, but I don't know what to call the people who go after people, like bounty hunters, I guess. Ben, the dad, dies, and Charlie and Maggie and Aaron go off to find Ben's brother, who is apparently awesome, so they can save Danny. Did that even make sense? I'm trying to give you a decent roundup. Miles, the badass brother, is in Chicago, so that's where they need to go. While Charlie and that are wandering through the woods, Charlie comes across a guy who I initially thought was quite good looking, but then I realised that he was probably a bad guy and I probably shouldn't find him hot. But he seems okay in the beginning, but you know, you don't trust people. Maggie says this as well. She tells Charlie that she's basically being an idiot and she shouldn't trust anyone. But Charlie, of course, doesn't listen to her because she's a brat. Tara, one of the other people who writes honorary posts and comments on our blog, she said that it's probably because she's young, but she is not only young, she must be like 21 years old or something like that. She's older than me and I know not to trust people in the woods. If you just randomly come across them, they're holding a huge crossbow, it's just not something you do. But anyway, the hot guy Nate isn't actually with them when they come across this abandoned plane. Meanwhile, Danny is still working on getting free. He's trying to unscrew his handcuffs. He manages to do it and he whacks a guy around the head with a pole and he runs. That's not important, no one actually cares. And then it cuts to some guy waking Charlie up on the plane and oh my god, it gave me shivers, the thought of them watching her sleep. Creeps me out, I don't like people watching people sleep, it's just, ugh. Maggie, the witch doctor, she actually poisons the 2 of the rapists and they start coughing up blood and stuff. Nate comes back, he's followed Charlie because that's not creepy. He shoots the other would-be rapist through the heart with his bow and arrow. So now Nate is wandering to Chicago with them. Charlie allows it. This is when Maggie says, you know, you shouldn't trust anyone out here, and Charlie just kind of gives her the hand and thinks she knows everything. And then Danny finds his way to a farmhouse, which is awesome. He has an asthma attack and then wakes up to some woman holding a gun to his head, and she gives him an inhaler and she seems quite nice, quite friendly. And this is around the time that Charlie and that also come to Chicago, which seems actually nicely set up. It's got like a marketplace and horse-drawn carriages and all that kind of stuff. And Charlie and that walk into a bar that used to be a posh hotel. That's when we see that Miles is running the bar and there's a kind of kerfuffle sort of thing with Charlie telling him that he's her uncle and who she is, and Nate kind of threatening Miles, and Miles is like, nah bro, and nearly sliced his throat, which he should have done because no one actually likes Nate. Charlie and Miles talk for a bit. Charlie does an awful job at explaining what Miles needs to do or what she wants him to do, and that she's their family and all that kind of stuff. I know that made some people cry, but I kind of just laughed because I don't really like Charlie. Miles then tells Charlie that she's a knob and that he doesn't want to go with her. She has to find someone else. Charlie, being the brat that she is, storms off, and then Nate tries to threaten Miles, and that's when it turns out that Nate was actually part of the militia. Everyone was like, I told you so, we knew it was bad, and Charlie seems shocked, and I don't know why she's shocked because it's not really that big of a surprise. Nate gets away, thinks he's a ninja and kind of like backs away with his bow and arrow. Miles tells everyone about his master plan to get drunk. The militia turn up at the farmhouse where Danny is and capture Danny, and then more militia turn up at the bar. Miles just kind of goes crazy and starts stabbing at them and dodges bullets behind a big pillar thing, and God, he was awesome. During that scene, he became my favourite character. Before that, I thought he might be my favourite because he seems quite sarcastic and he's a drunk, and I like drunk people. During this huge 10-minute fight scene, it's not actually 10 minutes, I don't know how long it is, but still, he slayed everyone and I thought it's fantastic. Charlie did turn up and help a little bit, but she wasn't really that much help, and then Nate turned up and helped her. And then there was this sort of like insta-love connection that no one actually likes, because who cares, no one likes Nate, no one likes Charlie, and who would like the two of them together? And now Miles has decided that he's going with them to find Danny, and I'm not really sure why he decided that. Maybe because Charlie tried to save his life, or I don't know, because it just seemed a bit sudden. Then come the two twists of the episode, which is, one, there's a flashback showing Miles and his friend who were in the car, and they turn up at the military base after all the electricity has gone off. It turns out that Miles' friend is actually Monroe. He's got the tattoo. So that should be interesting. They've got some history together, and I like that. They might have been boyfriends at one point. I have a new / pairing, I'll have you know. The second twist is that the farm lady who was looking after Danny for a bit, she has one of those USB necklaces that Ben had and told Charlie and Maggie to keep safe. She takes it upstairs to the attic, and it turns out they've got this old school computer up there, and the USB stick seems to turn electricity on or something. She logs onto the computer and she's talking with someone, and yeah, that's the end of it. Overall, I thought it was a pretty solid pilot. I didn't really like any of the characters. It's probably going to take time for them to grow on me. Maggie is kind of cool. I like the way she poisoned the people who tried to rape her, and I love Miles, of course, who would not. I don't like Charlie, I don't like Nate, I don't like either of them together. Danny seems alright. Farm lady, she seems quite interesting. Monroe seems really interesting. I can't wait to see what his whole thing is about, because he seems to want to turn on the electricity and kind of rule the world. I like the head militia bounty hunter bloke. Cara tells me it was also on Once Upon a Time. It was the genie? Or the man in the mirror, either one, I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention. Those two twists at the end were shocking enough to keep me intrigued, and I'm just going to be spending ages trying to figure out like who turned off the electricity, how is Monroe planning on getting it back apart from kidnapping Miles and Ben, like what are they going to do, and who was that woman talking to, and what was this whole section of the army about, because they must have been quite high up there because they were really good fighters, and he manages to fight with his sword. So yeah, overall, like I said, I thought it was a pretty good episode. If you've watched it, then let me know what you think of it. I'm not going to be doing a rating scale for these recaps, but Cara did ask me like what I would give it from 1 to 10, with 1 being the best and 10 being shit, and I said I'll give it probably about 3. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out our blog and my post if it's up already. You can also follow us on Twitter, or just me on Twitter, and I also have a Tumblr which I'll link below. Thank you, goodbye.